everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, this week we're going to be taking a look at harmonizing leads. And so that's really when you're playing two strings at the same time. So one string is playing the melody while the other string is playing the harmony and harmonizing with that string. Another way that you might hear that referred to is double stop. So again, double stop is just playing two strings at once. So what I've decided to do this week is to create three little mini lessons and combine them into this mega lesson, which really goes into detail as to how these double stops are created, where they come from, and how you can transpose them into whatever it is that you're playing. An added bonus for premium members, if you are a premium member, you're going to want to go to ActiveMelody.com and look for EP055. That's where you can download all the assets for this lesson. So the jam tracks, there's actually 3 jam tracks that were created for this. And so there's a lot of material to practice with. You're also going to be able to download the tablature as well. So if you're not a premium member, just go to ActiveMelody.com and check that out. A lot of great lesson material for you there as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first part. Alright, so let me call out the chords to this first little lead that we have. So the chords are, and you'll see why, the chords are very important because they become your roots. And so once you figure out what the chords are, you can derive all these double stops. And it's pretty easy to do once you understand conceptually what's going on. So the chords are an A chord, and it plays through. Then it gets to a G chord. It goes to an E, back to a G, back to an E, and then right back to the A. And that's it. So it's really just those 3 chords. So it's an A, a G, and an E. And now that you know the chords, now you can play these little double stops. So all you need to know is what the chord is and what the root fret is. And from there, you can start to map out what your double stops are. And once you understand this concept, it's actually pretty easy. And you can just see some of these shapes. You'll be able to do these no matter what key the song is in, if it's slow or fast or, and then they work nice over blues and over country and even over jazz. So they're very versatile. Okay, so the first thing that I did was I went. So let's start there. Now these first 2 notes, let's look at where we're at. My pointer finger is down on the 5th fret, 1st string, and my middle finger is down on the 6th fret, 3rd string. And what I'm doing with my picking hand is I'm picking the 3 string. You can see the pick going down there. Then I'm using my ring finger here to pluck the 1 string, like that. And that's how I do all these double stops. I'm using my pick and my ring finger. And the reason I do that, you could do that with a pick. You could have gone with just a pick, but I like to do these when I'm doing 2 at 1, 2 at once. There's really no easier way to do it than to use your pick and your finger at the same time. And so that may seem a little uncomfortable at first, but it's definitely worth the investment in trying to work that into your muscle memory. So anyway, so that's where we start. And I slid into that too. I started 2 frets down on the 4th fret, 3rd string. And I slid up to it like that. Okay, now, since I said we were in the key of A, and this first chord is an A chord, you can see what's happening. So if I just played the A bar chord, well, those notes are part of the A bar chord. You can see that. But you don't need to play the whole bar chord when you're doing these double stops. All we need are these 2. But that's where they're at. They live within that A major bar chord. Now, once you know that, you can think, okay, so now if I'm ever in a song, and let's say there's a G chord in a song, or let's say there's an F sharp chord, which is down here, I can go. I have 2 strings that I know harmonize. It's those 2 because they're part of that chord. So you can start to take this thing apart a little bit and understand where they come from. So you can always work in your own double stops. Now the next thing, this is what I did. So from here, watch what happens. My middle finger goes up 1 fret to the 7th fret, 3rd string, and then my ring finger crams into the same fret and plays on the 1st string. So strings 3 and 1 on the 7th fret. And and then I slide everything up 2 frets up to the 9th fret. But let's look at the relation, since you know where this is in relation to the chord, meaning you can always get to this, right? Now, anytime you're in this position, you can always just slide your middle finger up 1 fret and then push down here with your ring finger to get that. And that will work over any chord. So you're probably thinking, well, what do you mean by that? So if I'm playing a G, I can go. See, those 2 harmonies work within that chord. Since we're in A. And then I can come all the way up. So from this shape, I can skip a fret and come up to this fret. So I can go up 2 frets. And you start to hear what like Steve Cropper does. You know, when let's think of all those Blues Brothers songs. That's really what he's doing. He's doing a lot of these double stops. So from the A chord, then we know how to play this. We know how to play this. And we know how to play this. Now, what's cool is I can start to break that down, and I could go. So now I've got a turnaround using the double stops. It's the same notes. The only thing is I added that middle step there, which we know we skipped. We went up here before, but if I were to walk it down, you have options. So now it could start to get really creative. If you're playing a C, and if it's a real slow tempo, you can go. And it sounds very calculated because you're harmonizing, but all you're really doing is following that pattern off of the main chord that or the chord that you're playing in the song. So all right, so now we're going to walk up from here. We're going to walk up one more place, and for that, on the 7th fret, or sorry, the 9th fret, where I'm straddling those strings 1 and 3, I'm going to take my middle finger and I'm going to slide it up to the 11th fret on the 3rd string, and then I'm going to put my pointer finger down on the 10th fret 1st string to play those 2 notes. And so now that gives you another shape, and all of these shapes work. So you can see that there's really 2 shapes that you're going to use. You're going to use this shape, or you're going to use this one where the 2 are crammed into the same fret, and it's those same 2 shapes. They're variations that go all the way up the neck, and they keep going, and they even go down, play down here. So you can see when we start it here, that's shape variation 1, you could say. There's shape variation 2. Now we're back to shape variation 1. So then we're going to go and walk it down. You can see what I'm doing. I'm starting here. I'm going to the 9th fret where we straddle the 2, strings 1 and 3. We're going to the 7th fret where we straddle strings 1 and 3. And then back down here to where we started, which is our root. So, isn't that kind of cool? So now what I did was the song at this point switches to a G chord, and what I did was I went. You can see what I'm doing. Look in reference here. So there's your root, right? So I went from here. So I just showing you the root so you can see where we're at. So I'm starting here on the 5th fret, straddling strings 1 and 3, and I'm sliding up. Remember, I'm skipping a fret, sliding up just like we did up here. But now I'm doing it in reference to the G. So I'm sliding up to the 7th fret, strings 1 and 3, back to the 5th fret, strings 1 and 3, and then back to the beginning part. The G is really part of that G bar chord. So it sounds like that. Now when it goes to an E chord, I do the same thing, but I shift everything down 1, 2, 3 frets so that it matches with the G, the E chord. Now, some of you may not know this, and I know a lot of you do, but the nut here on your neck really is the bar. If you think of an E chord, all you're doing is you're creating that same shape. You know your finger is simulating the nut is what it's doing when you're making a bar chord. So when you're down here, now that we can think of it that way, so if that's the case, then I can put my pointer finger down here on the 1st fret 3rd string and play the open 1 string, because remember the bar is really kind of covering that shape if you think of that. So then we have this where we're straddling strings 3 and 1 on the 2nd fret. We jumped up 2 frets just like we've done on the other two. And now we're straddling the 4th fret, strings 3 and 1. So back to the G part, we had, then when it comes to the E, we went. So you can see what I'm doing. That's in reference to the E. And hopefully that makes sense to you, and you can start to see, oh, okay, so if had he played a G sharp chord, I could play, right? And you could even go, you can work in all those other little licks that we've learned too. So, all right, so let me piece it together. I'll play through it slowly. So what we have is, hear how it changed keys. So we're G, E. Then to have a little fun, the second time through, I decided to throw in a lead to change it up a little. So I played. So what I'm doing for that is I'm back to the root fret, and I'm starting here on the 3rd string, 5th fret, and then I hammer onto the 6th fret, 3rd string. Those are your first 2 notes. Then we're playing the 5th fret, 2nd string, 7th fret, 2nd string. So let's back up and do that. So we have, so those are your first 4 notes. And then we land here on the 5th fret, 1st string. Now you can see, like if we're in the key of A, the minor pentatonic scale would be like that, right? But when I'm going, playing this note and this note, those are part of the major scale. So that's why it sounds a little happier. And I've covered that in a lot of other lessons, how this is that sweet spot between the minor pentatonic scale and the major pentatonic scale, where the 2 scales come together. It's pretty cool and very useful to know, but that's why that sounds the way it does. So those are your first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes. Then what I did is I went, so for that I came up here and played, I made the shape, it's a D7th shape. So if you're familiar with making a D7th down in 1st position, it's that same shape, but I'm making it up here so that my ring finger and my middle finger are both straddling the 8th fret. These 2 are on the 8th fret, and then my pointer finger goes down on the 7th fret, 2nd string. That's where I start it. And then I slide everything up 1 fret. And I'm just playing those top 3 strings. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, let me just point something else out. Another little thing to pay attention to. If you're ever playing in the key of A, remember your root, it's right here. So from your root, if you come up to this position, you can always play that, which is a 7th chord. And it gives you a real nice bluesy sound. So Red House, for example, Hendrix, it was also an A, and that's what he was doing. Was he was just sliding up to that chord, really. Okay, So that's just another thing to remember if you're ever playing if you're in a G chord. Just remember where everything is in reference to the root fret. And there'll be some memorization to have to count things, but once you get it, it'll be second nature for you to jump into that. So, all right, so we have. Then I came down and played. I just did a bar on the first 3 strings on the 7th fret. So, and I did it with my ring finger. Then I came down and went. And for that, I just barred the first 3 strings on the 5th fret. And I'm playing strings 3 and 2. Although if I happen to hit string 1, that works too. So I do a hammer on like that. And I'm hammering on with my middle finger to the 3rd string on the 6th fret. So let's back up and go. Ring finger down on the 7th fret 4th string. Pointer finger down on the 5th fret 4th string. Ring finger down on the 7th fret 4th string to end that little run. So all together slowly we have. Okay, and then after that I went. And that's Eric Clapton 101. He does these little trills all the time. But all I did there was I just did a full bend on the 3rd string, 7th fret, and I used my ring finger for that. And I actually used two fingers to push. I used both of those just for better leverage. Then I come down, release the bend, come down and play just the 7th fret, 3rd string. And here's where I play. Do that little hammer on, pull off, hammer on. That's what you're doing. So I'm picking on the 3rd string while I'm fretting here on the 5th fret. This finger stays down the whole time. So it's hammer on to the 7th fret, 3rd string. Do a pull off. And then a hammer on to the 7th fret 4th string. So all together it looks like this. And when you do it quickly, and it just takes some practice to get up to tempo. Okay, so after that, I just came back to the 5th fret, 3rd string, and then back to the 7th fret, 4th string. Okay, and then we're back to the G part of the song, and I just did the same little riff that we already covered. So I played that for the G part, this for the E part, and then did that twice. And then I just went right back to the beginning. And you can just loop that. And so that would be what you were going to want to do, is get the jam track and practice along with that. Now here would be something really cool to do if you're really wanting to try practicing these double stops. Is, since there's 3 jam tracks that come with this lesson, is try and play the different licks that you've learned from the other 2 lessons, and try and intermingle them with the other jam tracks. So try and play this, for example, try and play those licks over another jam track, and because they're in different keys, and it'll just be really good practice for you to get that down. And once you get the double stop thing down, it really adds a nice element to your playing, and you can see it's pretty easy to do. There's not a lot of variations. It's really kind of one pattern and the second pattern. There's really 2 patterns that are just shifted up and down the neck. So that's all I have for this lesson. So make sure you go to activemelody.com if you want to download the tablature, the jam tracks, and then watch the second part and the 3rd part videos for the other licks.